Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring that we rule them all. Cookie fruit, remember your towel. Get your ulu feathers and your needler guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel, it will get you to come. To the pit tank. To the pit tank. The Rocky Mountain pit tank.
Hi, I'm Guy.
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And this is Geek Tank.
Your half-filled cup of coffee size podcast.
That's about accurate, actually.
All right.
Yeah.
Nailed it. So before we started, we were discussing our switch to nighttime, which is looking like
the switch to nighttime.
But not the fabled Geek Tank at night, which I've always joked about we should do, which would be the NC-17 rated version of Geek Tank.
Right.
Where we talk about all the topics that makes your mom uncomfortable. Your mom. So I'm double checking here to see when the last day of school is, because I know that coming up in June there'll be days that I'll be not in Colorado. So
well, there are 2 weeks that we've got 2 weeks left on my side, and I know that's the same. We're in the same. We're in the same.
Nick is, yeah.
So at least one of your people is the same county as my kid. I am looking to see.
Looks like Arapahoe Public School calendar is supposed to be, last day is supposed to be May 18th, which is way closer than I thought it was. That doesn't seem right. Maybe it is. Who knows? Isn't this exciting geek stuff?
I was going to say, I'm trying to figure out where I'm scheduled. Like
yeah, so they're actually saying June 2nd on this more calendar for me. So, but I know that the one school district lets out a little later than the other school district. So, but in any case, I know somewhere around that time there's stuff going on that will make it probably tricky for me to jump into a show based on whatever Wi-Fi is going on. But if I can broadcast remotely, I will broadcast remotely.
There you go. I don't even know how in the world to figure out my schedule.
Technically, we're remote right now anyways.
Right.
That's Jeffco, right? Jefferson County. May 26th.
Okay, June. Here's the June schedule. No, that's the schedule. That's the
last day of school for your kiddo is going to be May 26th.
Okay. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we've been talking about that because the kiddo is not doing so well.
Well, everything resets at the beginning of the next school year.
I'm going to write that down, though, in my scheduler. Last day of school. I never put it in because of the fact that sometimes they add days, depending on whether we've had snow days or not. So I tend to not put the last day in until I'm sure that they're going to clear school on time. So anyway, okay, well, there's that. So we aren't sure yet.
But we're definitely will be nighttime. I'm not sure that we'll definitely be going to nighttime on June 6th, Monday, June 6th, 2022. Do we want to do 9 to 10? Because what's your other thing you're doing scheduling look like for online stuff, Guy?
You'll have to say that again because I was too busy trying to.
Okay, you're doing another nighttime thing, broadcast show.
So at night I'm doing Quack,
and isn't scheduled yet.
It is scheduled. We're already starting to do. We started it last week, and it works 10 to midnight Mountain Time.
Okay.
So, and it's Monday through Thursday. On Friday, I just do a normal daytime broadcast like I've always been doing.
All right.
And
So, well, if we go 9 to 10, that would be rough for you having to do the switchover, probably.
It probably would, but it's okay as long as you're running it, and as long as I can bow out before the end credits, we're fine.
Yeah.
But we don't want to roll over on the show because one of the things that is kind of cool about the new show is that the guys are actually very engaged, and I've always had someone else with me every night.
Mm-hmm.
So
you just need to teach one of them how to set up stuff and have it take off, so they can launch the show.
Yeah. Not 100% sure if I can. We'll have to figure that out.
No way.
All right. So we'll be doing 9 to
I mean,
9.
that might work. That might actually be just fine.
9 to 9:59 on Monday nights,
or 8:45 to 9:45, or 8:30 to 9:30.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
As we get closer to the date, we'll have it figured out.
We'll have it squared away.
Pinky swear.
Yep. At least we're more figured out now than we were last show.
This is how the sausage gets made, people.
It is. It's exciting. It's stuff that normally other podcasts would charge you a Patreon fee to get to see this kind of stuff. You know, we give it to you. We give it to you free. So.
Exciting sausage. I'm here for it.
Right.
Yes. I mean, since we're just chit chatting.
Yes.
Were you okay with Mariah and I being thick as thieves? Was it distracting to you, or did you notice any weird dynamics at the table, Troy?
Oh, I wasn't GMing.
I know, but we already talked to Guy about it a little bit. So
okay.
We're just, since you're here, figured I'd ask you too.
I didn't see anything wrong with it. From just audience's perspective, you know, I was sad that I was missing out on what was happening, but my character wouldn't have seen anything.
Okay.
And if he had, he wouldn't have even put anything together anyway. So, but Troy would have liked to have heard, because I'm sure it was very entertaining.
Oh yeah, so. we entertained ourselves a lot, or each other a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we figured next game we'll we kind of noticed that June was having some frustration, and that she said it was because of in character reasons of the whole Suzail thing, but we think that part of it might have been having Mariah and I between her and the GM. So we're planning on sitting farther away next time, so other people can sit closer to the GM.
So you think it was causing too much of a break in the fourth wall, maybe for her?
No, we were in character.
Maybe just preventing her from being able to interact with the GM then.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and the GM is finally acknowledging and recognizing that he has issues hearing and parsing sounds when there's too much noise. So we're probably gonna try to work a little harder on making it so that we don't have so many conflicting noises going on.
So that sounds like the side conversations would need to be cut, like in volume or something.
Just a little bit, yeah. It'd be nice if it was cut just a little bit.
Yeah, just so everyone, our audience knows, I'm like the loudest person.
Yes.
There, but I was being very cognizant to not be loud while we were.
You were actually doing really well, and as much as I'm sitting here going, well, we need to be. The truth is, you actually were doing fine.
I was on good behavior, but it still might be better for us to sit a little bit farther away and have the other people who are really engaged with this part get more.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing because since we've gamed so much online, that kind of stuff could be had in the text. So while the GM and active players are talking voice over Discord, the other players that are doing something in character can have their stuff over in the chat menu on the side.
Right.
Which then is nice, because then as a player, not as a character, you could go back and look at the cool interactions happening between the other characters. But yeah, now that it's happening out loud, it can be distracting, I'm sure. Yeah, the only thing I was noticing in game was
another thing. It's like been trying to be more cognizant of my I loathe to say disabilities, but my disabilities. There are some challenges that I have, and I've noticed this a lot. It's extra distracting.
Hi, Brent. I just noticed he popped in there.
Brent is here. It's extra distracting for me when there's a lot of noise, a lot of things happening all over the place. It makes me go and more, just kind of zone out. So it's fine. It is totally fine.
Yeah, only thing I was noticing is what Bach would have been noticing is that in the middle of the fight, he's like, okay, why were we all scattered everywhere? This was tactically a horrible layout that we had gotten into. It's and because we're not a trained team yet. So after the fight, it'll be one of these. It's like, hey, let's stay within charging distance of each other, so I don't have to spend 2 turns running across the room to make myself a target to keep someone else from getting hit.
Right. Well, and initially my thought was that was because we all popped into the room by me just throwing the counters onto Roll20.
No, I think
you're talking about something actually where some of the characters decided, I'm going to go north and run all the way up to the front of the blah, 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 blah. And then some of the characters like, we're going to go south and go blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wait, what? And then, oh, I tripped the trap and I'm by myself. And,
I remember the old Diablo 2. I believe there were points where you could see enemies and you don't trigger them to attack you, so they're there. Mm-hmm. But if you get too close to them, it'll trigger them. And so when you're playing multiplayer, it's wise to not just go running off, because then you'll get swarmed by yourself.
Yep. That definitely was occurring, although we didn't have a swarm. That was just a test. So
right. Well, I'd say we failed.
Yeah, we failed.
Room for improvement.
Yes. The other thing occurring to Vakt is that nobody knows exactly where we are, and we can't. They won't be able to get to us, so there's no backup coming. Mm-hmm. So what he's wondering, and he wouldn't necessarily remember the name of the spell, but he remembers that at least Gerard or somebody has the spell that can magically send messages. Would say, hey, can you try and see if you can at least send a message from where we are and let them know where we are, and not to go walking through those doors or they'll die.
Right. Chop, 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 zot.
But yeah, so far it's been fun, and like you said, it was written back in the 70s, so we have to keep that in account with all the stuff going on in it.
For those of you who are wondering, we're playing Expedition to Barrier Peaks, but it's the modified guy version. So it's not quite Expedition to Barrier Peaks. One of them was, of course, obviously it's in a different realm than the realm we're playing in, or that the realm that 5e has generally been playing in right now. And so I didn't want to mess with swapping realms and stuff like that and things. And so all I did was just make it part of the existing story that Troy has been building. And I just literally snapped it onto the bottom of his existing story in the cave by putting a different cave underneath they had broken into that leads them to Barrier Peaks. So
yeah, we've been playing in the Forgotten Realms, Waterdeep area, and our first adventure was the Lost Cave of Phandelver.
Yeah.
In Phandalin and all that. So we are kludging to that instead of going to, now we go to Greyhawk, and then we go to Spelljammer, and then we go to
so we just connected the Barrier Peaks thing to the Echo Wave Cave from Wave Echo Cave from Lost Mines, which it works out. Yeah, it looks like they started working on creating the adventure of Barrier Peaks in 1976, and then it was first published in 1980.
Yes,
which is interesting.
I don't know. I just played it in the mid 80s somewhere, and it was one of my favorite things ever that ever existed. And I loved it so much. Mostly because I was being a role-playing game snob and was only playing sci-fi, and my buddies, I didn't want to play that weird fantasy thing And so my buddies got me into this one via Barrier Peaks, which led to Middle Earth role playing, which led to my love of ICE, which I still love. So there's that.
Yeah, but it's got a bit of history. It was obviously they were Gary Gygax was testing to see if there was a market for sci-fi role playing.
Yep. It's funny because there's a market for role playing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I remember. I don't think it was until Traveler, from what I've witnessed with my brother, there wasn't like any popular RPGs for sci-fi up until then.
right.
But that's just because that's what he got. It's not like I went into at that age. I wasn't going into game stores and looking at the modules. I was looking at the miniatures.
Me too.
So my brother, don't eat those. Those are lead.
Right. Like I've got to admit, that was sort of what I was doing too.
You were eating lead miniatures?
I was eating lead miniatures. This explains so much about what's going on in my world now, right? So it did amaze me that we were, I mean, the 70s was when people realized that lead sucked and we really should. And all through like the 70s and 80s, all of us kids were getting lead miniatures. I'm like,
to answer Brent's question, we started out well, technically we started in person years and years and years and years and years ago with other role-playing games, but more currently, just right around the pandemic hits when you switched over Starfinder to Roll20, correct, Guy? Or
yes.
was it a bit after?
Yes, that was exactly what happened. We said, hey, we've been working, we've been together, but we could still be together if we went on to this Roll20 thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
yeah, so the game that we're in now, that Troy is the basically the showrunner for.
Yep.
He is the David Lynch and Mark Frost, where the rest of us are guest directors sometimes. We started off online, and it's a pretty big group, but oftentimes life comes up and people can't make it, so it's been fairly manageable. Mm-hmm. And we've recently been transitioning back to in person, and last session was actually hybrid. We had everybody in person in the room, but a lot of people really like Roll20. I'm not one of those people.
We know.
And but the audience doesn't. And so we had a lot of people with tablets or laptops and stuff, so they could still access their characters and do notes through it if they wanted to. And it was and then as far as a first time doing that, and we also had like the main map up on the TV screen up on the hearth and all that. But as far as doing
a very large TV above our fireplace, so that in our living room, the table now has this massive something like 42-inch TV over the fireplace that was given to us by James. So that was what sort of started the thought.
So then, we had some hiccups setting up and doing stuff, but if we continue with it, I'm sure we'll smooth them all out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the fog of war and all that stuff, making that work.
There's dynamic lighting, and I really want to get it to work.
Yeah, Kevin and I have already started talking initial plans of we have to make it in sections so we can get it into my basement, but making a gaming table that we can put a television into for the map. Mm-hmm. And so that way we could have the best of the worlds that I like of having miniatures on the map, but then we would still have the digital map and the little side thing if people still wanted to roll virtual dice instead of real dice, which being OG, it's like, sorry, I'll always love my real dice.
Correct.
I don't have any problem with that. I actually found it interesting that as GM, I'm enjoying rolling dice physically. Mm-hmm. When I'm a player, it's so much easier to just use the Roll20 app, and then you guys say, hey, roll a blah, and I just go beep, and it rolls the dice and adds all the math and adds all my modifiers and adds all the things.
That's because you're not adding any modifiers or anything when you're rolling as a GM.
Right. When I'm running as a GM, right, that was what I was thinking was the last game board. That is exactly what I was thinking about. So the last game board is a thing that Dustin's working on right now. Dustin Hatchett, who's a buddy of mine, and I actually have seen one in person. They have RFID chips, so that when you you can put the RFID chip on the bottom of your Mini, and when you sit it on the board knows that the Mini is there. So it can set up all the dynamic lighting and roll 20 to respond to the Minis on the board. So when the Mini moves, all the lights will move and everything, so that the Mini can't see past a certain area too. The last game boards are awesome, and they're really cool. The thing is that they're doing things like enhanced chess, because it knows where all the chess pieces are on the board, so the board can then respond. And they're doing things like, I saw a chess game where like you'd move, but then the square would turn into lava or something like that. And, like it was like nightmare chess, but with like responsive board. And it was really a neat idea. And I've really liked that concept. So,
well, if Dustin and the last game board people want to give me one to put in my basement and broadcast our games from it, I'll be happy to promote it that way.
Right? Exactly.
There we go.
Yep.
So we figured it out.
But I remember seeing this one person posting on one of the indie groups I am, how he'd made his table and got his television from like the Goodwill or something, and made the entire thing for like under $200.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had asked Kevin, because Kevin has all the woodworking stuff. I'm like, hey, I was thinking about doing this, but the catch is we'd have to make it in pieces so I can get it in my basement without killing anybody trying to get it down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And he really liked the idea, so we're looking into it.
I think that's gonna be an awesome idea.
But yeah, so we were playing. Yeah, 15 by 15 sounds right. I think it was just a bit over a foot, which I think the cheap televisions now, though, you can get like Guy was saying, like the 40-inch screens for really reasonable prices.
Yeah, I
got that one for was exactly free.
I'm thinking that I might have a line on a 32-inch TV. Now that we're mentioning TV sizes, I'm pretty sure it's 32. Might be just 29 or 30, but that should also be free.
Cool. Yeah, I think the thing is it just has to have a HDMI input, so you can plug the laptop into it or whatever to run the maps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely in person, because that's how I started and have done most of my gaming. I'm really attracted to that kind of role playing. But the I can't deny the convenience of the online stuff like Roll20 and Discord, because it allows you a chance to be able to, if we wanted to, if we had a friend in a totally different state, they could be playing in the game with us.
We have a friend in a totally different state,
but they don't want to play with us. So
I know Brent hates us. He's always hated us. Well,
there's no more room in hell. The dead will walk the earth. No, there's no more room in our game. And if players dropped, the spots would not be refilled.
Aw.
I think, yeah, if we got down to 5 players and then if we went to 4 players, and I'd want to add a 5th again, because I think 6 total people is a good number.
Yeah.
Well, but there has been.
The truth comes out.
Uh-oh. You never asked, Guy.
Yeah, Kevin needs to work on the G33K. I have asked. He's part of our adventures game. I'm not the showrunner of our D&D game.
No. Yeah, he was part of the Star Wars game, wasn't he? Or Star Trek game.
Yeah, he was part of the Star Trek game.
Is that the adventures game? Is that the same thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Star Trek Adventures.
When you just said adventures, I didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, he's part of the Star Trek Adventures game. So has been for a while.
I'm never letting go of this game. You'll never be rid of me.
But it is plausible that we could break into 2 groups, 2 teams.
I don't think we have to necessarily.
If we really needed to.
I mean, JD only made it in because of the fact that I haven't seen him in years, and he expressed interest. And had it been one of these things where if he was like a part of my life weekly, I probably would have said, hey, I really don't want to add another player to this game because it's so big right now. Yeah. But he's a great friend, and I like having him involved in things that I do with, and so I'm like, get in the game so I can actually see you once a week and instead of once a year or something. But yeah, at some point, I know it's so old now that it would be hard to get back into, but I would really like to go back to our steampunk game at some point, because I had things in play in the story that never happened. And so that story is incomplete. But I could always just write it as a story, but it's more fun to play it out as a game.
Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I like that too.
So since we're talking about the game and we have no other topic on the menu, I was thinking I really do want to try to turn our games into live plays that are being broadcast. The trick, of course, is always the technical. And going back and trying to salvage what we had before, I think is going to be way too much work since there's no money involved. And I was trying to think of a way to, when we start, to be able to just start. And we didn't have the technical setup. Otherwise, starting at Barrier Peaks would have been a good start, because that was the start of a new campaign or new module section. But I figured what we could do is I could have each person film like just 10 minutes with them alone and have them talk about their character and what led them up to the point that they're at now. And so they can retell what they remember from their first adventure at Phandalin up to where they are. Right. And then that way people watching the podcast could watch that first one and get the backstory leading up to where we are now when we start broadcasting. And I think it was Mariah and Kevin that I was talking to about this already, and they both thought it was a decent idea for a way to start doing that. Because I've been listening to more live plays, and some of them, they don't do any editing at all, which probably be where I would be at on this. Right. Because editing takes time, and it'd be more fun just to hit record and broadcast.
Fair.
But I just need to make sure if we're doing, I just need to find out if we can do it visually or if it has to just be all audio. And that comes down to people's, that comes down to our non-podcast people's comfort with being on a podcast.
Right.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I mean, I've been writing all those stories, and I'm composing the next part, so I'm happy to sit down and talk about my character ad nauseum.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm cool.
Fun. How many sessions do you think the Barrier Peaks thing will go, since we're only still in the test phase?
Well, first of all, Barrier Peaks is a massive monster. Anyway, it actually cracks me up looking online. It is clear that the version that I played back in the 80s was a small version of it. Like, people just cut crap out of it all over the place, because if you play Barrier Peaks as it was designed, it will take years to get through. But most of it's dungeon crawl. You have to search every room, and every room has got a critter in it that you have to kill. And
you're killing Alex.
Right. And so I've cut a whole mess of that out, because I don't want to dungeon crawl. I mean, I like dungeon crawling a little bit, but not that much.
You just play Diablo. I like Diablo.
So it's like, no. But I do think that we were talking about something, and somebody had talked about November-ish giving a target for something else. And I feel like that's probably fair to say that we'll be running through Barrier Peaks through November.
Yeah. So to remind Guy and to talk to the audience, before the Rona, some frozen happening.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
Guy, yeah.
No, I'm frozen.
But before the Rona, I was running an Earth Dawn campaign that was mostly out of the books with the new edition, but old first edition modules, but the 4th edition rule set, because Earth Dawn is my favorite setting ever. And it was really good, but it's post-apocalyptic fantasy horror. And once the Rona rolled in, I was like, man, it's kind of hard to get into a horror mindset around the table. It's even harder when everyone's online and like watching YouTube videos and stuff. So, So we were discussing Earth Dawn's like coming back to the Earth Dawn game that I was GMing, and I was thinking November is probably when I will be in a position to do that. Of course, we'll have to try to schedule another time because, like I said, I'm never letting go, Troy, and not in some namby-pamby Titanic way where they totally let go like 10 minutes later. No, it's like.
So you're saying it's going to take 25 sessions to get through the game, Guy?
I don't know.
It's going to be, because that's insane.
Have you met our group?
Yeah, I was about to say. So the map that we're working on right now has exactly one bad guy on it and a puzzle, and we haven't even gotten through half of it yet because everybody had to do all kinds of other.
I mean, how long did
I literally set it up to be super simple. With all it is a tutorial so that you can get adjusted and acclimated to where we're going, and then
our group didn't bring enough food to live down here for 25 sessions.
Right, and then a hook, and that was it. And we are not even halfway through it.
Yeah, like when I guest directed for the Legally Distinct from Phantom of the Opera, I was like 2 sessions, no problem. 5 sessions later,
well, I figured 5 or 10 because I figured you'd target 3 or 4, which means it would be 5 or 10. No, so if it's 27, that's.
I know for a fact that there is even in the, and I've stripped Barrier Peaks down so that we have just the essence of it. And even at that moment, I'm pretty sure we're rolling through to November.
By the time finally get out of Barrier Peaks, they'll be like, I don't even remember who Barian was.
Right?
So Troy, how long did you think we were going to be in Suzail?
I thought you were going to be there 1 session longer.
Oh.
Because I thought you were going to pursue, despite all of the hints not to, trying to get that kid in trouble through legal systems. So I thought there was going to be a legal system session, like your day in court. Would have been like the name of that session. No. So I did expect that to happen. So I did a lot of research on how that was going to go down, had it gone down. Which the twist would, of course, been when you get everything in place and it's finally going to happen. You're like, all right, we're going to see this kid in court. We're going to make all our claims against him. And then you walk in and Lady Halandra is actually the judge.
Right.
Like, hey, no fair.
All right. Plan B, stabbings.
Fire. Wall of fire.
But it actually is totally fine. And I've written Barian into Barrier Peaks. So,
yeah, but I'm just saying, when people get out, it'll be like 27 sessions, because assuming that each session is at least an hour in player time or character time, I think the group's gonna have to get their heads together and speed run this.
You don't have to. I'm actually totally okay with this. It doesn't.
Troy's just contemplating 25 sessions till he's back in the.
Let's see, because
I guess I should say. I've been planning on doing Barrier Peaks for a very, very long time, and I have no issue at all with.
Well, it's levels 8 through 10.
Yeah, it's level. Well, the book's downstairs still. Otherwise, I would have grabbed it.
Let's take a look.
I think it's 8 through 10, 8 through 12. So yeah, I mean it's. Yeah.
Let's see.
So I absolutely adore this. Yep. I have no problem with it.
All right, we'll cap out then before the game ends, because we were going to hit level, according to the schedule that I was thinking of, since this is now the 9th and we've gamed once. Then the 30th. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then on the 4th we would hit level 9.
Really?
Every 4 games,
right?
level 9, 1, 2, 3. Then on the second, we'd be level 10. That would be July 2nd. 2, 3, 4. Then July 30th would be level 11.
Yeah. Well, we haven't been sticking to that hard and fast.
No, I've been. That's because we had some sessions that ended like halfway in the middle. Like if I was originally going to level as at the end of last session, I wouldn't have because we ended in the middle of a combat.
Right.
But yeah, I was trying to stick to that. But that's okay. It'll go faster the more we level up. So
Showrunner says augment.
that's right.
Yeah, like I said though, I'm not opposed to
I haven't read the module, so that's why I'm in the dark with it.
Well, you don't want to read the module.
No, I don't. So that's when I was asking how long do you think it'll take. So if really it's just be like the number of encounters. But yeah, this encounter should not be taking this long.
No, it shouldn't.
And it's
us.
Well, one, it was the one person went and triggered it. So for 10 minutes of real time and life, the other players couldn't even get into the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So
also not an uncommon thing for our group to do.
The group's been pretty efficient in combat, but mainly because we get Nilthan in the front and he gets his bazillion sword attack.
Sort of true.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of true.
Yeah, I think after we kill this vacuum cleaner, we need to have a tactics talk and stay within our group. And also we need a plan for when we get to something that we can't hurt.
Yep. Yeah, because the vacuum cleaner is easy. Relatively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
One would hope.
And, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm curious, does the Barrier Peaks have any mention of the spell mending in it? Because I feel like that was an out-of-the-box thing that happened.
It was. I did not intend for you guys to mend.
Good morning, Forrest.
I did not intend for you guys to mend the cards.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. It worked.
No, you rode with it really well. It's one of those things that I find funny that I'm guessing it's a spell that's been there since like what, 2nd edition or 3rd edition?
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it may not have been around at AD&D. So because I'm not 100% sure, but
mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah, and then and also like this character as a caster, like the vast majority of my spells are about convenience.
Yeah, luxury.
And luxury. It's like, why don't you have this damage themselves? Because I have a sword. I don't have why do you take this spell? Because I don't like doing my own laundry.
I don't like sewing.
It's like
the cost of learning the spell and the cost of hiring a seamstress every time I rip something in a fight, it paid off to learn the spell.
Yes. It's like, why did you take this spell? Because I hate carrying and putting up and taking down tents.
Yes.
That's why I took that spell. Which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's I love it. It fits into Bach's thing too, because Bach's one magic that he allowed himself was the spell to be able to clean himself because he hates being dirty.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense too.
Exactly. Mending was a 1st edition spell.
Oh, they would have had it then.
They would have figured it out.
But of course, I mean, in the early days, it was the outgrowth of wargaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not a lot of people
do damage. I don't give a rat's ass.
That's right. Does it get me experience points? No.
And to be fair, I don't think. Well, okay, so they also didn't give you guys cards right off the bat either. So that's. But I didn't. One of the things upon reading about Barrier Peaks was that many player groups or whatever spent an inordinate amount of time in the first room screwing around because they didn't understand how the cards worked. So my thought was, I'm going to give you guys just the connector tissue between our game and Barrier Peaks. And while I'm at it, give you guys a little like primer on how to use the cards so that we didn't have to waste 3 sessions in room 1 trying to figure out how to do the cards. So
yeah,
that was the whole goal behind this. And the fact that you guys have 2 cards is useful, except that you don't know for sure whether that second card actually mended or whether it just looks good. It might just look good. So
yeah, we'll figure that out when it comes to it.
You'll figure that out when you get there.
Like you're saying, if they built this game like original Nintendo Link game, then the room that we have to get to is going to be behind 50,000 other rooms that we have to get through, and you're not allowed to bypass it. Which where in the dungeon that you guys were in, I'm like, you make a right turn, you're at the bad guy.
Yep.
That's
no sequence breaking.
You don't have to go to the end of the tunnel to pull a lever to open the door at the end of the other tunnel to get through the thing.
Right. On the flip side, well, and that's the other thing is I, as a GM, I love having maps. I have always loved having maps, but it does sort of lend itself more to a dungeon crawl. So I've been trying to change and pivot the way that I think so that we can still have maps, but you don't have to slog through every room. You know what I mean? Like, so that it still has the beautiful maps that I have always loved. As I'm artistic. I love this stuff. I love beautiful maps. But on the same token, I am, as I grow older, getting less and less tolerant of dungeon crawls. So I feel kind of like, well, I don't want to make you guys slog through a dungeon crawl, but I want a pretty map. So I've been trying to balance that. So that's the other reason for this intermediate map. It has only one bad guy. You guys are fighting it right now. And the rest of the map is a puzzle.
Meta knowledge.
And so I'm trying desperately to make it balanced so that we can get both sides of this sort of worked out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in this instance, I don't mind that you guys know that as players, because you will then, I don't want to say you'll be less likely to be super cautious, but as players, you also won't do we'll creep in and then we have to spread out and then we'll move and then spend 3 hours trying to place all of your people in the right place. And there's nothing in any of the other rooms.
Everybody get out your 10-foot poles.
It's better for you guys to just know right now, because then you guys can start pressing through this so we can get to the actual game. So I'm
speaking of pretty maps, you know who has pretty maps? Kieran Games.
Kieran Games has pretty maps. They actually have all kinds of cool stuff.
They do. But I had to segue, and pretty maps was the thing I grabbed onto.
That works. It works. So Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, and your mom. All right.
Yeah, I need to find out if Kieran Games is going to be at Starfest.
I don't know. I feel like. Oh, and Starfest, by the way, is this weekend, and we'll be doing something from it.
May 13th to the 15th.
Yes. So Troy has just gotten very blurry, or he needs. I think Troy just needs some kind of Retinox 5. Are you allergic to Retinox?
There it goes.
There it goes.
So yeah, I'm. We won't be. Probably won't be there Saturday night if we're gaming.
Also true. We will be there Saturday, and we will likely be there Sunday. So
we could go. Depending on cycling, the children could be there Friday for some amount of time.
We could even be there Friday.
We need to get in touch with the media folks and find out. We do need to go Friday so we can get on the schedule for interviews. But yes, Saturday day up until like maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, probably.
Yes.
Yep, I'm watching their little flip through thing of their videos. They got cosplayers of the Aquabats.
Cool.
Starfest.
Candlekeep Mysteries and Force is hitting Starfest on Saturday.
Candlekeep Mysteries?
Yeah, it's another classic.
Yeah. Are they running it there? Is that what yours?
No, he says that his group is doing that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at a different screen.
and that he is also in a separate comic going to Starfest. So woot!
Nice.
Always a good thing. Starfest, I'm very sad that this is the last year of Starfest. I do feel kind of like one bit of my
non-existent soul.
Yeah, one bit of my non-existent soul is about to die. One of my Horcruxes. Whatever you want. No, but I mean, I went to my first Starfest when I was 13 years old. And I have been going to Starfest off and on since then. And it's been sort of a tent pole of my life. And it's like, at least I can always go back there. Like, I made a buddy of mine in junior high go. And since then, she and I have met at Starfest, and we just sit down and just have a coffee real quick, catch up with our lives, see what's going on. But she was my best bud in junior high. And, of course, we're not linked anymore like we were in junior high, but we're both Trekkies. We're both geeky. She went her way, I went my way, different kind of things have happened. But it was also interesting because she was the first post-puberty female friend that I had that was not in any way related or involved in any kind of sexual relationship, which was cool. Because that sort of set a tone in my life that you could be friends with girls, without it having to be one of those complicated, stupid things. So I really like hanging out with her from time to time, and it's cool. And this was like our way of kind of getting together and hanging out and having coffee. And that's going to be gone. And that's like a thing. And so she and I are talking about this. We're like, what are we going to do now? I don't know. We'll have to actually like be real people and go sit in a coffee shop like normal humans. This is so weird.
Did Starfest start out as a different name?
Mm-hmm.
What was it originally?
StarCon.
That's
StarCon
right.
Denver.
Okay. Yeah, it says the first
Denver,
one. It says the first one was 1977, but it didn't mention the name, and I kind of remembered offhand that it was a different name when it started.
So the way that the history of StarCon worked was StarCon started in 77? Yeah, 77. And then about, I want to say the late 80s or so, they decided to do 2 a year. So they added Starfest in April and StarCon was in September, pretty much exactly where NDK is. And then at some point in time, as the internet kind of grew in, there was another StarCon that was on the East Coast. And I think Kathy decided to downgrade and do that kind of thing. And so she got rid of StarCon and just kept Starfest. And so left, because that way there was no conflict. People could go to StarCon and everybody knew that meant the one in Virginia. And then Starfest would be the one in Denver. And everybody got that.
Doing the Picard maneuver.
Because we're talking about it, you had to do the Riker maneuver.
Yes, I did.
Riker maneuver. Yeah, now it encompasses Horror Fest, Comic Fest, RoboCon, Science Fest, and Game Fest, all under the Starfest umbrella.
Right? So. And RoboCon was the one I really wanted to get into because I'm such a mecha dude. As you guys are learning by the fact that I have made D&D mecha all of a sudden. That's totally what I'm doing here is D&D mecha.
Yeah, other conventions would be wise to realize this is going to be a big gap and
it will be a gap.
To look into trying to incorporate some of these fandoms into their convention if they don't already have it.
Absolutely. I concur.
Because Mile High Con's still in existence, right? They haven't had their last one yet.
Oh, yeah.
As far as I know, we are still on.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, so there's a difference between, though, structural, how Starfest runs and how Mile High Con runs. Mile High Con is based off of DAFSA, which is a local science fiction group that has been around since literally the 60s. And they get together outside of the con as a club, so to speak. But they've got a board and they keep bringing on newer and better con chairs. And some chairs then, they'll retire and things like that and whatever's going on. And not saying that Linda's a bad con chair, by the way. I loves Linda. I loves Linda to the end of the earth. Anyway, but because DAFSA's in charge, Mile High Con, once Mile High Con becomes too much of a problem for a con chair, they just put a new con chair in, and all is good. With Starfest, it's always been Kathy. Kathy's always been in charge of this. She's always been at the helm. She's getting tired. She's starting to wind down, and understandably so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it's mind-boggling to me. I'm turning 50 this year, and I've been going to Kathy Walker's con since I was 14 or 13, since I was 13. That's an insane. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around, It's like really hard to kind of comprehend that.
I'm kind of our one friend had mentioned he was surprised that they didn't just look to sell the convention to another person to run it, since it has that name behind it and the history. You would think it would be potentially something worth investing in.
A lot of the little con people, and you're right, a lot of the little con people, and by little con I mean NDK, Starfest, and I don't mean to say that we're little cons, but we're small community cons. We've been watching what happens when Creation takes over an event, or what is that, Wizard something or another, but they'll take over an event. Fan Expo is a good example of this. It becomes extraordinarily cold, like very distant. And
he didn't mean necessarily sell it to a corporation, but sell it to another local person or someone who has got history with Starfest and
right. Well, that's what I mean is nobody locally has the money to do it, and the big companies that want to take them over tend to turn them cold. So what I'm trying to kind of get to is, I think a lot of people, because we've kind of over drinks had discussions about this, you know what I mean? Like all of us at NDK, we've been kind of sitting around going, hey, what would ever happen if all of us decided to just retire and get out, had those kind of speculation. So this is not an official thing that anything's happening in NDK. Oh my God. Because I could just totally see that happening. Anyway, we've had this discussion, and the general consensus is nobody can really feel like they can ever get the convention turned over to the people who would understand. And it always feels like if you sell it to the big guys just ruin it. They trash it. It becomes corporate and cold and stuff like that. So I'm not speaking for Kathy on this one. She has her own reasons, but I suspect it's something similar. Now, as for NDK, I think we've got a board as well that, I mean, it's not to say that Starfest doesn't, but we've got a board that just, once Amanda's term is done, we'll put somebody else there, and it'll just keep going, and it'll probably be given to Alex because Alex does not want it.
You can't make him take it.
No way.
We will force him against his will.
I'm back in training. The only person I worry about is Rex because he's super strong.
Right. It better come with a big fat check if it's going to get him into it.
Well, so anyway.
It's like,
no, I
have reached the level that I want to be at, right on that line.
I think you're actually even just a little further than the level you want to be at.
Now, yeah. But I'd be like, this is it.
I came into it with an exit plan. I was ready to pull the cord on day one if I needed to.
Right?
It's like, I know how to get out of here, and I know exactly what I'm doing if I need to. So.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
No, and no, actually, I'm pretty sure there is a battle plan somewhere for who will be in charge if Amanda ever steps down, and it ain't me. I'm not. I'm gonna retire. Well, I'm the oldest, the longest running oldest member of the board now, and there's no way. There's no way I'm gonna retire out at some point. You're just gonna see me in Artist Alley, the little old man in Artist Alley selling comics, and I'm gonna be happy as a clam. It's gonna be beautiful. All right, out of all this stuff.
Well, allow me to retort.
Clams aren't happy.
Kyle will be off at college.
Yeah.
You and Mariah will be doing some other hobby stuff suddenly, they'll dangle that. If you're the head, then you can totally, have your finger on the pulse of everything and collate all that historical information.
We'll give you an extra free cup of coffee.
Right? That's totally what they did to get me in here too. It's irritating. Totally how they did it too. They were like, "Hey, you could be the archivist and be in charge of the history." And I was like, "Ooh!" And they're like, "But you have to be a director." And I'm like, "But that's exactly what happened."
Excellent, Smithers.
That's exactly what they did too. It's
Well,
horrible.
It may be the last Starfest, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm personally a little bit torn of I want to go or not, because I've been to several Starfests.
Mm-hmm.
It is not part of my core fandom, but I had good times, have friends there, all that, and but I'm also kind of like I haven't been in years, and I don't know, not like I haven't been to Starfest in years. I feel like a poser. It's like I haven't been to Starfest in years. I think it's going to be really, really packed.
It will be because it's the last one.
It's going to be ridiculous.
And I'm like.
The thing with Starfest that makes it, it's the first convention that we covered as Geek Tank, and they have, unlike the other conventions that we've been to, they have a dedicated professional media organizing team that goes around to conventions, and that's their job. They're paid to do this, and they coordinate with which guests will do interviews to what level, and they basically run it past them. So like, Brent Spiner would get a list of like, these podcasts have requested you and stuff. And he might go down and go, I'll do the local news one, but none of these other ones or something. And
yeah, he's not doing any, so we won't get him. So don't worry about having to protect me on that
one. Well, you say that, but you never know. He might change his mind last minute or something. But yeah, Brent, this is the last Starfest. Haven't we been saying this every episode?
That's pretty much.
Yeah, if you got 1 week to make your flight plans to get out here if you want to get to it. So it's but yeah, they got us some really awesome interviews. I got to interview and why is the name going to run away from me? Several Star Trek people, including Chekhov.
Walter Koenig. I got to interview Walter Koenig.
Terry Farrell,
who was the sweetest person on the planet. And Rene Auberjonois. Who is still one of those moments, because this was like, I think probably less than a year before he passed. But I went in there and just for the interview, I said, "Hey, how do you pronounce your last name?" And he's like, "You know what? Don't worry about it. Nobody ever gets it right. And it's totally fine. Do your best and it will be great." And he was just like so encouraging. And then, so I was like, okay. So I got on there and I said, "I'm here with Rene Auberjonois," and he went, like he got it.
Yeah.
I believe that clip is in the opening.
It's in the opening because I'm so proud of it. I'm like, because I'm like, I'm here with Rene Auberjonois, and he does that, and I look at the camera like,
yeah, as opposed to the clip of Chekhov taking off his mic, slamming it down, and storming out.
Right.
Oh my gosh!
Well, he did it as a joke to Guy.
Trolling me.
It was hilarious because Guy's like,
well, I'm here with the guy behind the camera, and I just exchanged looks like, did we just crash this?
Yeah,
literally with one line.
He's and Walter Koenig's like, "Why is everybody always associated me with Star Trek? I've done so many other things than that. I'm out of here."
Yeah,
and then he's like half out of his seat, and then he starts cracking up, and he sits down and puts the mic back on.
He was trolling me. But I'm like, of all the people to troll, don't troll me with Star Trek people, because I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yep, his inner Star Trek child started crying and hid in a corner.
Right, my inner Trekkie was just like sobbing, and it was horrible. It was terrible, but that's all right. We got through it. And he was just trolling me. But yeah, Starfest. It's going to be sad.
I think Terry Farrell might be there this year. Is she on the guest list?
I think she is too.
One of our viewers here just said they need to get her autograph. So
I think she's going to be at Starfest. I do believe she is, and I'm hoping we can get Michelle Hurd. because Michelle Hurd is like everyone's mom. And so I would love, if nothing else, I would love to get, hi, I'm Michelle Hurd. I'm Star Trek's mom and your mom, because that would be like the best ever. Because she really is. She's like taken on the role of being everybody's mom on the set and everything like that. And I think that's such a great thing for her to do. And she's a sweetie.
Mm-hmm.
She's like so lovely.
I have just confirmed, looking at their website, she is scheduled to be there. So since you said you're already going to be there, be sure to bring your DS9 DVD, and then maybe you can get a signature.
Cool.
That would be an awesome thing. And we are out of time, guys.
Yeah, we've been out of time. But we're talking about Terry Farrell, so it was okay.
It was okay. As long as it's Terry Farrell. Well, and Michelle Hurd, because she's cool too. Just saying.
Yeah. All right, so we will be here same time for the rest of the month, Mondays at 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock each.
Until
starting June 6th, we are going to be switching to evenings.
With a potential that it might be the week before. So, because
depending on whether, because you don't know
all of the stuff that I've been going through, I've discovered that my my handler will not actually release the schedule until 10 days before. So
10 days before that day, we'll know.
Actually know what I'm doing in June. So there's that. So
if you don't see us here at 11 o'clock on a Monday, look for, or 10 o'clock on a Monday, look for is at 9 o'clock that night.
Yeah, right. We'll post it on the socials.
Yeah,
we'll post it on all of our socials. So that's all the time we've got for today. Thank you for joining us. And until next week, I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And I've been Alex.
And this is Geek Tank.